horror stories, to borrow the devil's head. The author of The King's Voice reads a mysterious word full of things. After the successful August Revolution, my mother's family, evacuation from Gokong down to Xinjiang to live. I heard my mother say that the place where she lived was a wasteland. It's called the Village of Hope. It's not just my mother's family here. There are many people from all over the world coming. Give yourself some land to build a house. It wasn't long before I was born in 1971. Then once again, my family moved to Fuquak Island. Stay always until the present moment. I once heard my mother tell me, from when she was a little girl until she was 1067 years old, I've never seen anything spiritual. That thought was deeply ingrained in her subconscious. Until you set foot in this village. Because sometime later, something terrible happened, shaking the people and the government. At that time, I would like to ask permission to tell this story as follows. In late 1953 and early 1954, in the commune of Longshoha, Xinjiang, it was drizzling that afternoon, lasting forever without stopping. On the dirt road leading to the Village of Hope, there are two men in the rain, but run in a hurry, through the decaying wooden fence in front of the yard. Suddenly, the young man called out to him, "You stink, you stink." "Something's wrong," from the shanty house built of coconut leaves. A man over the age of 5 appeared, standing at the door looking out in surprise. "Both of them serve. It's raining. You guys are running around looking for me." His wife grabbed the plank. I ended up wearing dried coconut leaves and ran out and opened the door. But when he arrived in the middle of the field, Feng said horribly, "Brother, I fell into the river. The canal at the top of the village. Come out quickly." "What? Oh, my wife." After the meeting, I saw that the cross-section had no blood box. Threw the board hurriedly and hurried through the wooden fence, running a circuit towards the canal. I forgot about my 10-year-old son. Just slept in the room. When you arrive, I saw people in the village standing in the rain. Business a lot? At the bottom of the river, there were 3 or 4 men taking turns. Despite the cold wind and rain, they are searching for the body of the woman. I was screaming to jump. Some nervous people stand by me. He 7 comments close neighbors with family. I'm worried. All right, now calm down. They're looking for a wife now and they're waiting. I don't know how to swim. It's dangerous to jump in there. Listen to me. You guys let go of my hands. My wife's down there. I have to go down and find her. Hey guys, hold it tight. Don't let it jump. Not seeing you too. Let me slow down and struggle. Try to escape the hands of the French. Are tight with me, but then I can't fight it alone. He bit his lips to the blood. Look at the cold river. The cold swallowed his wife. As time goes by faster and faster, it's getting dark and her body hasn't been found yet. Everyone thinks that maybe the body was washed away by the current. I've been crying so hard. Around people standing around compassion. 8 Blessed is a fruit merchant friend with peaches. Outside the district market. I heard you died. She hurriedly packed up and ran out. Can I help you? But by the time we get there, it's too late. When you were alive, have you heard about your family's difficult situation? When you are wounded? After being allowed to return to his wife and children, injury outside of battle, your health is weakening. It's almost no longer heavy. The economy inside and out depends entirely on coal. Apart from keeping you, there's nothing you can do about Raz's backyard. Sometimes Mrs. 08 blesses to visit the couple. And there's a big cock with caviar. From the fruit it likes to eat the most. I asked the underworld down there to take him away. The soul you see, I know how to find him and bring him back. You can calm down a little now, asked the teacher. Master, if you can, please help me find the body with my soul. Wife is not teacher. I can't believe it. The whole family is warm. whenever his mother lets him go out and lie down in the neighborhood. I was suddenly faced with this unfortunate disaster. So, a few days later, the villagers hope to flock to the open side, where she digs a body washed away by water to see. The master established the ceremony of calling the dead. A week later, following his instructions, people just found out about the Peach Girl's body, drift to Hajiang Canal. Jiangshou district is quite far from the village. At the same time, there's an eggplant outside next to his house. The master also found his soul. You go back to your house, because the family has no family, with the consent of the villagers. The master has invited the whole family to a temple not far from his temple. Let them practice, as well as worship, incense smoke of Buddhist 10 directions, to visit. Then the days of grief passed. Dear friends, you've just heard the horror ghost story, To Borrow the Devil's Head. Author of the Kingdom through the evil voice from the radio mystery. If it feels meaningful and useful, you can support the author as well as the radio mystery through the instructions in the description. Once again, thank you for your interest. Follow. Don't forget to come to hear the story, as well as subscribing to a second channel that the digger's body hasn't been found yet, of the radio. That's the channel that MC describes. I have a link in the comment section. Once again, thank you for your interest. Follow. Hello and see you later. Wear it with your relatives. Call the government for help. When you know it's hopeless, I'm coming down. And decided to build a shelter in the back of my house. An earthen wind tune on that wooden stela. It contains all the information of the deceased wife. It's been almost 2 months since the day your wife died. For a long time, the neighbors came home from work. Passing by looking at the house, they all noticed you. Sometimes I sit in front of the yard. Sometimes I sit in the field behind my house, chat alone. But there's no AI around, except for the 4 big boys crying because they're hungry. Though, your life is still going on normally. Communicate with people in a very natural way. One day she ate blessings from Vintrach commune. I have a job to go through your village. I'm stuck. I met a guy crying at the front door. Commune in bag with fruit. She thought about it for a while and then decided to visit. Ask your father. By the way, let her dig a stick of incense. It's called devotion. As soon as you approach the guy. Now he's not crying anymore. He's sobbing his nose. Her heart is indifferent. She slowly sat next to him. Get gloves, wipe your face, give it a question. Why are you sitting here like this? I heard her ask about her father. He changed his face, looking scared. Head swinging. I'm so scared. I see its strange behavior. The 8-year-old lets you look inside, then turn to the next question. I'm afraid of something. That's what happened to my hand. Holy shit, my wrist is scratched so badly. Check his body for a while. I saw that some places were beaten to bruises. You're very confused right now. He quickly raised his hands and rubbed his cheekbones and said, Do you have to be liked by people? Tell me the truth. Stomach. Not finished yet. Then from behind came the sound of English. The conversation between the 2 grandmothers. 8. When did you come home? I don't know. Who opened the door? Let me in. She startled back to look. I saw you standing in the middle of the driveway. In your hand, follow the sharp gourd. Unconsciousness and shower without a bit of cold back, but after a few seconds, she answered. Oh, I was just passing by the house. I see the door is open. And this kid, he's sitting here collecting loo. And then I went in and asked, just light incense for your wife now. So, well, then I'll burn incense. I have to get out now. After listening, she stood up. Fast forward to the altar made of bamboo. A bizarre photo of peaches, painted with a charcoal pencil. 8. She did not dare to look at the photo for a long time. Immediately vowed to bite the incense stick into the small land, then hurriedly say goodbye to your father and leave. I see you are 8 miles away. I suddenly get angry. Germany looked at her son with disgust. I'll tell you who let you sit here. Do you want me to break your leg? Get in the house quickly. The strong man forgot the pain. That runs straight into the room. Out in the open, the door is closed. Don't let any light through the gap. And then you're walking around the house. The next days passed by. People around frequently heard the cry of the strong boy. Coming out of the house, some people anxiously ran to the door. It took a while. Then you come barefoot and you don't show up. But the image in front of me, they're not full-bodied men anymore. You look so shy. Dark eyes like someone who has been sleepless for a long time. From inside that white boy, some people can see the blood veins or the evil insects hiding in the present. But some people are worried about the strong guy. Immediately raise a reproach. Where is the strong man? What are you doing? He's crying so loud. When he heard that question, he lifted his mouth and laughed. His eyes glanced at each one full of mystery before answering. I didn't do anything about it. He's playing with his mother in the room. People are looking at each other wondering. I don't know who the mother you saw him go to. Everyone's pursuing their own thoughts, but no AI can deny that. She digs her cheeks out of the bow. It no longer exists in this world. He jumped up from behind the Chun people. He looked at the house and said, he said the boy was playing with his mother. So who is that person? Are you going to take another step? Why did you guys find it so strange? Come on, this is about my family. You guys are too much. Please go home for me. I quickly closed the door. Ignore the whispers of people around. And then life goes on quietly in this hopeful village. Until one night, when the people in the village are sleeping, suddenly from where the screams of 7 bars, people startle to wake up. They light lamps and pull each other. People are running out like the enemy. When they look back, they realize that sound, it came from the house of my 2 sons. Here everyone sees. There were 2 girls lying motionless in the middle of the door. Looks like you 2 witnessed something. It's scary. There's a 16-year-old boy in the living room. Do not stop crying 7 bars. When you look at it, everyone notices. That's the guy. My son sells oil in the neighborhood. 7 were also present, with a son named Jun. While everyone is messing around, I don't know what's going on. Then you sit down. He rubbed his shoulders and reassured the boy. What are you doing in heaven? It's 5 nights. What are you doing in people's homes? Calm down and tell me. I see a lot of people here. He looked around all the time. The eyes can't hide the fear. He panicked. In the house there is. Before the end of the sentence, a series of screams boomed. It's a peaceful countryside. He commented, startled. And then, with her people outside running inside, then my mouth screamed. Hands are just young people standing cowering side by side, next to the room door. What's going on? Who let you into people's rooms? Come out quickly. Uncle 7. A young man spoke up. But after that, Mr. 7 and his wife found out. It's a terrifying scene. Maybe my whole life. You'll never forget that scene. In front of you, right in the murky room, chairs, crumbling furniture, a pungent smell that gives off asphyxiation, under the light of the torches shining in. And everyone can't hide the horror. When I saw Thoy's body hanging, tongue sticking out, head and body peculiar, with every wind blowing through the window, out of your body. In the corner of the wall is the dead guy, on his knees with his head to the ground. The blood flowed into a large pool. And worse than that body, it doesn't have a head. I just saw that horrible image. Many people are afraid of the blue, screaming and running out. He commented, and some 3 more brave men lingered, but not for long. Then they continued to witness other terrifying scenes right in front of me. Under the body of the cock, more than a meter away from the corner of the wall, it's a very sturdy bamboo stand. There were 2 big lights burning out. There is half, and more terrifying. In between the two lights is the head of the big cock, are being eaten by the smelly falls. There is no clear identity. The comment snatched the pen from his son's hand, find the crab to chase the fall, and take the tattered cloth, and covered it with the head of the cock and brought it down, among the rest of us, in the dead room. Mr. Tengreen is over 60 this year. He's a carpenter himself, carved into the boat in the neighborhood. There was a time when I could see the sound, something that ordinary people can never touch. More before your husband comes. He helped a lot. This is the picture of my father dying. It's a bit like losing a loved one. Suddenly he came closer to his body. So don't be afraid to say, "Thy is thy?" Why are you so stupid now? Now it's time to die, and the two boys Theo. It's not worth it now, Thoy. If you hear that, step back and advise. Then bring him out. But he immediately raised his hand. Say something that makes him afraid. But the eyes are searching around. You guys move aside. The guy who's here. Let me talk to him first. I see you standing alone. It's a strange gesture, like talking to that AI. In the meantime, he's calling people. Let us pray for the bodies of our two fathers. The two spouses have no family. So just the next day, relatives, neighbors represent him 7 comments. He also stood up and buried my two fathers. Behind the garden of the house, however, it seemed as if everything had been resolved peacefully, getting back to normal. And the lives of the villagers are hopeful. It wasn't long before some people reported that I have seen the soul of the strong bow, or wander around to mess with. And the person who's been in contact with that ghost? The most obvious is that no one else is watching. His only son 7 comments. As you say, you have to go through the moon. Visiting a relative are sick. The house, the fields, the garden leave you with a watchful eye. For the first 2 days, everything was normal. But until day 3. It was also the time when he was on his way back. It was a moonless night. Suddenly, from far away from the neighbor's house, the dog kept barking. Make it impossible for me to sleep again. Then you get tired and get into bed. Put your hand on the oil lamp on the shelf. Then open the door and go outside. In the dark space in front of the yard, 10 steps did not see the shape clearly. In the rows of leaves, shaking back and forth with every wind, makes you shiver and sneeze a lot. Slightly straining eyes looking out towards the dog's bark. Next door neighbor, under the narrow dirt road. I saw a child walking. To come closer to your house? In the middle of the night, that strange shadow. It makes you feel a little cold in your back. As soon as it crosses your fence. In the oil lamps that illuminate the courtyard off the road. Now I'm horrified to realize that kid has no head. You seem to know what you see. It hasn't stopped. The eyes start juggling something, round as a dried coconut. Even the sparkling laughter echoing, not in the spirit of who the kid is unexpected. It turns around, across the places you're separated by fences. Then speak up. That guard, do you remember me? Oh my God. Immediately after the question was raised, the head has decomposed up towards the watchman. Under the light of the oil lamp. I knew right away it was a tough guy. Now your mouth is open. His legs were stiff and unable to move. My heart almost tightened. Soon the head of the strong cock. Back through the fence. That stare at you. Dear, I'm in pain. Too scary. Please attach my head. I use my best and close my eyes. To not have to see that disgusting thing. The sound of its gruesome newspaper, endlessly moaning by the ear. About 10 minutes later, I slowly open my eyes. I don't see the tough guy there anymore. At that time, he cycled back from the front door. I saw you standing dead with the fence. He raised his hand and asked, "What are you doing standing there? Why haven't you slept yet?" to hear your grandfather's voice as if he had returned. The cable opened the door and pulled him inside. I just looked back at the road again. Make sure there's no AI around. That's how it's done. What are you doing? That's a waste. Tia. I just saw that strong guy, your son. It looks terrible. What are you talking about? Don't tell me I feel bad now. But what else, honey? It just showed up in my front yard. He even brought his head closer. Give it to the snake. And then you tell me the whole story. When you're face to face with the soul of the strong. After listening to both of you, I sat and thought. After a while, remember something. He commented, sipping tea. And just enough for me to hear. Is it true what green tea is about? What's going on? What did he say to you so far? I didn't believe him at first. I suddenly heard about the strong guy. Slowly, the guard started to feel a bit creepy. I'm a little worried. When I remember the picture of when he was 10 blue. Stand there and talk to your body. It's dark outside. But right now, neither of your fathers felt sleepy. He kept drinking tea, to eat soup for his father's health, to stop it, and then he stopped drinking. Stand up to the ancestral altar, lit a stick of incense. Then get back in the chair and talk slowly. Do you know now? The one that brought your 2 children here to be buried. When he was born, he told me so. Previous time. He carried the bodies of his 2 sons and buried them behind the house, before waiting for the master to recite. Then indeed, he green-led him to comment out the back garden. Then worry. You seven. I said, this isn't it? Around you think again. I think it's best to burn Thoy on both sides. Then bring the hoe to the temple for the monks to take care of it. Don't bury it. What are you talking about, you born? If you don't bury your son here, you bring him to the temple. I don't understand. You see, he's trying to convince you. I don't know how to tell you. When I was talking to a guy named Fong, you were there too. You know what? In fact, Thoy didn't mean to kill his child. It's because he's under fire. You heard this, and you're amazed at the words. His eyebrows furrowed, looking suspicious. Then the green man continued. I'll tell you. The body of his wife has not been found so far. He's looking for a talisman to get his soul to dig up, to tell me where the body is. But I can't cry. Then go home. I remember the way the glass shaman called the soul. Should follow? Who would have thought it would summon the evil spirit? What kind of a fool does he know? Oh my God, what do you mean by that? If so, you are green. This is no joke. Now he began to explain the cause. That makes you come. He killed his own child. It tells me what it means. When I found out the demon wasn't his wife, they are seduced by the devil. I want to find the carcass. Give him a human head. He then returned the body. When I heard that, how much was it done? He went into the house looking for the strength to take action. The results are as you and I have seen. Finished listening to the story, his face looked confused. Keep asking questions again and again to make sure that he was born without making up the story for some purpose. Believe it or not, it's up to you. I know I just told you to think. I'll be right back. Not waiting for you to say anything more, Mr. Green walked straight out into the yard, and then fade away for the crowd of people who are coming to Tanyua. After listening to my father, conversation with Mr. Bourne, I firmly believe that words come from your soul. It could very well be true. The current evidence is clear. The silent soul has returned. Harassment of people in the village. After that night, the next morning, the guard suddenly became ill with fever, taking regular medication for a whole week. Still not out, instructed by relatives to take the temple, under the garden of Tay Nin, of an enchantress to ask for help. After knowing the love, the teacher came to the house to check. I saw him lying moaning on the bed, pale blue facial expressions with bruised lips. Then he said, "Don't worry, your son has a big network. It doesn't fit. It's just direct contact with negative people. so the oxygen in the body is somewhat weakened. Try giving it a regular grapefruit leaf bath, then everything will be fine. He said he gave the padded handle. My eyes are lying outside the yard. A few seconds later, the teacher took it out of his pocket. 3 red spells, and I said, "Take a burning leaf and put it in a glass of water." The other 2 leaves, he each kept one for protection. Just now, I can see the air in this village. A lot of it could be coming. A family in the village will meet the town. If we don't find the cause soon, I'm afraid there's more going on. The more you listen, the less afraid you are. I don't know what the teacher is referring to. And then I remembered the story of his birth. You haven't had time to ask? Then the teacher held up his hand. I know what you mean, but I'm sorry. I can't help it. I think you should go to the people in the village. Find another teacher. The longer it takes, the more trouble it gets. When he finished, he said goodbye, and categorically refused to accept the money. Let him insist with all his might from Raz house to the wharf. After doing as instructed by the teacher, in fact, by evening I was getting better. Your face must be fresh. And since then, 2 father and son are very limited to going out at night. Sometimes you go to the temple to listen to the monks reciting Buddhist prayers, to pray for peace for the family. However, the time after, outside his family, he saw nothing. It's in the village. The frequency of people seeing the silent source of death every time it gets thick. So much so that someone saw it show up at noon. In between, people are resting in the fields and in the water, in addition to those who often see evil spirits, or wandering around with your head in your hand. At the end of the neighborhood bordering the Eastern Canal, my grandmother's house is over 50 years old. Have been a birth helper for a long time. All the villages know the language, but to get to the station, you have to go through your house. Although I hear a lot of people in the village, but she herself lived more than half her life. You never know the face of a ghost. What the hell is it? Except for you. People describe the shape of ghosts. It's scary. Under one October afternoon's weather, because today she has 2 emergency midwives at the infirmary. So it's almost 5 o'clock when we're done, on the bike ride home. It's getting dark. Make her run faster to get back to the water. Before the sun goes down, in the middle of the road there is a silent shadow. The trees on both sides screeched. It makes you feel so strange. By this time period, people in the village are going home. More or less, there must be people on the road. She cycled from the top of the village until I come out of your empty house, without hearing an adult's voice, or any child laughing or talking. I'm thinking crazy. By chance, she saw on the side of the ditch by the grass, more than 10 meters from her position, under the afterglow that's left. She's clearly a kid in his 90s. She's sitting with her back to her. For a moment, its resting cry. Growing up made her very curious. Who's the kid sitting here crying? I don't know if it's a virgin. Came here just as she lit up the car right behind the kid. I realized that the boy was covered in mud. I saw him still sitting with his head down and sobbing. She had some compassion and shook her head. Hey, where are you crying? My mother is gone. No one loves me anymore. I'm sick. I'm hungry. Mrs. B.A. always sounds like that. I thought for a moment she'd come close behind me. Put your hands on his thin shoulders. Stop it. Stop crying. Have you eaten anything in the morning? Follow me home. It's cold in the wind out here, he said, and pulled the child's hand to turn, facing my direction. But suddenly the kid wasn't crying. Hurry up and close your hand. Put your hand up on your neck and say, my neck hurts so much, it hurts so much. Why don't you take out your hand and look at it? As soon as Mrs. Put your hands on the back of the child's head. Then there's a terrifying scene happening right in front of her. It made her die on the spot, because she saw his head drop suddenly, rolling in the grass beside. Has not stopped. The body in front of him bent down, hand groping in the grass, It grabs its head, which is now decomposed, just inert the rough edges. It's just behind the skeleton. Suddenly the head is in front of her, then laughed out loud. Help me bite my head. My head is broken. Immediately after hearing it, she screamed with horror. I'm going to fall down with my bike. At that time, from far away, there were two men on their way home from work. I heard her scream forever, then shuffle the oil lamp back and forth. I knew someone in the village. A man named Longan took it. She sat up and said, "Oh my gosh, what are you doing? Wake up, sister. While you're out, I am looking for a cure for my grandmother. I'm 9 next to you," and my voice trembles. Lay around and say, "Always. Look at what's black in there." I'm always looking at my friend's hand. I was horrified to realize it's a headless body lying on its stomach. Neither of you had time to call for help. Then suddenly the decomposed head of the body, out of the grass looking at you two, his mouth met a frog that was still wobbling. The ghost saved us with the ghost. Soon the screams of the two of you, touching the surrounding houses. People immediately rushed out carrying torches and running. Watch. I saw you two crawl on the ground. After that, Mrs. B.A. remained motionless. And then a woman who kept the light on asked, "Oh my God, outside the 9. What are you two doing in the village? Do you know it's getting dark?" Now you're both reassured. Drink water to calm down. A few minutes later, your face re-enters. Breathe hard to speak up. New. Just now we saw Mrs. B.A. collapsed right here. Some guys are always running back to shake her up. Where does a headless body appear? It's right there in the grass. We thought someone was dead and we screamed. But before he could call his head, that body from the grass that's creeping up on us. Wow, that looks terrible, honey. I know. Don't tell me too much. This guy too with the guy. Please take Mrs. B home and come down. Remember to run carefully. After listening to your 9, he's all low-key. For sure the soul of the strong man appears. It's disturbing. I see nothing more. Who are you to take your kids home? I dare not let my children out to play, no matter the day or night. After that, there are rumors of ghosts in the village. The more land transmits, so that the weak are. I dare not set foot in the village. To trade something. I hesitated for a moment and everyone took a risk. Listen to the master. A long time ago, there are a few more in the village. Carry according to 6 chiseled shovels, pull 2, following the group of young people talking. Our curious old people, women and children, they gathered the Middle East cast in front of the abandoned house. But not many AIS had the guts to go into tracking. Partly because I'm obsessed with your father's gruesome death. Strong for fear of death. Your soul is still in the house. Suddenly appeared and scared, whether you want to or not. In addition to standing idly in front of the yard, listening to the teacher and the young men behind Rez's garden. They only know how to pray. I wish there were spiritual things in my village. It will end today, while it's in the backyard. You need 10 men to get together right now, to monitor the excavation of the unknown tomb, under the guidance of the local. 4 strong young men. I am naked and firmly holding the haul hoe to dig each other. Flatten the dense termite mound that enveloped the tomb. It takes a while. People are shocked to find out, in the depths of the earth, and the wobbling worms that are crawling. It's a red straw doll. He is also present too. When I saw the miracle, I told the green man, "Hey, Blue, what's that?" "There's this thing on the ground." "Do what I know. I haven't seen 3 of these before. I'm at the grave of my father. It's this thing again. Coffee." I hear people whispering. Then the master just took all the tools in his cloth bag and then come back to the plundered carcass. Just stoop down, pick up your lover and put it in his pocket. Just said, "This is the indirect thing. They killed 2 of my parents. There are some teachers, especially the Chinese teachers. Used to use these straw people to cast a spell on that one AI, or use it to bring back the dead with their relatives to worship. People who hear that look at each other incredulously, but the blue man reminded me of one thing again. If that's what you mean when you're alive, the world has imitated some teacher. He made this straw man to call his wife back. But I doubt. He's got the wrong ghost masquerading as his wife to worship that demon. How long without knowing? After all, just waiting for the right time. This demon is attached to Thoy to kill her child, then commit suicide. Is that right, Master? The Master nodded softly. Stand up, step out of the dirt, and say, I know that for a while. When the moon is not high, just bring this straw man into the house to call the devil up again. Maybe everything was normal at first, but a little later, it's hard to predict. As far as I'm concerned, your soul is dead. Maybe he's trapped by that demon. The teacher asked someone to help him. Gather your tools into the house. In a moment, they were all in the strong man's room. Once again, the master asked Mr. Shou, lend your body to the dead. Sounds like I didn't hesitate to refuse and go to the middle of the room. Calmly sit down, put a towel over your head. Now the master asks everyone to leave the room. Standing in front of the house waiting, sitting in a cold, murky room. There's only a faint light from the corner oil lamp, illuminating the scene. Tyrek sitting by. Put the straw man in the middle. Hand-pressed mouth silently read the words. Then there's a series of soul calls. Where are you reading now? Where the cold winds rise from. The whole body of two people. Shou suddenly shivered his teeth against each other. The master himself is still sitting, as if he were not affected by the cold wind. I can feel it. Just take a moment and everything will be fine. After a while, Chow's body jerked violently, mouth screeching. And then there's a horrible laugh, the same voice that tossed the man, echoing through the room, even to the cold. You're good at that, shaman. Where did you come to ruin my life? One of you leaves this house, or I'll make you die with them. End of life. Chow's headscarf was thrown out under the dim light of the oil lamp. Talk to the master. It's a scary picture of Shou, with the face turning ash gray, his white eyes streamed with angry blood veins. What did this family do to hurt them? You yourself are now the devil and your karma is piling up? If you don't repent now, give back this man's soul. Go down to hell to suffer. Don't blame me for not loving. That beat the super soul scattered hear you clearly. Hear you threatened. The devil in his body laughed. When you don't pay attention, it's holding its breast and diving forward. The master suddenly could not dodge, and his nails crashed against his cheekbones. So Yang Thin. Even so, he calmly responded, let's hurry up and grab it in Ra. A red bottle of water slammed right in his face. Soon the whispers came out. The devil in your body, screeching bitterly. His hands around his face were in pain. That people outside heard a horrible scream. The entire back. The child was afraid to cry. They were comforted by the family and led each other home. Meanwhile, the group of commentators were also startled by that shout. They are tired of looking at each other in sweat. In the group of young people, there is also a guard. Hold the pickaxe firmly to the body. I heard the noise in the room. I can wait to turn to the father. Or we go in. Go and see if it helps you. I'm in a hurry to stand out here. I heard you say that. Look at the blue for a moment. They both nodded. And then with some nervous young men ran inside. As soon as we get to the door, under virtual open light, the room is a chaotic scene. Like talismans scattered all over the ground, it's right by the side of the window. The master is fighting the devil. One of his cheeks was covered in blood running down his chin. He saw the master in danger, constantly tapping on the shoulder. A young man in front of me. The mouth is constantly pushing. Oh my God. Come back and give him a hand quickly. Take all the courage. Take the lead and run fast. The one who holds the fender's leg backwards, the hand pulls Sho tightly, but by some powerful invisible force, and every now and then he'd drop his arm and his leg, make all the young men fall to the ground. The two men in the green are now standing next to the master to help you run away. But immediately, the devil picked up a pickaxe on the ground. I saw 3 people with white eyes. Then the Buddha jumped to his destination and the whole grandma. If you take the courage to lead, you run fast. People keep their feet. He grabbed his hand and pulled Sho tight. But by a powerful invisible force, as soon as the tree is raised high, then the devil's 7-bar scream came out. It fell to the ground and rolled around in pain. Now I try to move forward, try to hide the pain. I looked at the guard sitting on the ground, holding a bottle that just landed in the back of the devil. He hurriedly said, "I want you to watch the man behind me. You go quickly." "You sound like that," he nods. He crawled quickly to the straw man. "Pick it up and throw it at the teacher." He immediately bent down. "Pick up the talisman intact," glued straight to the head of a straw man. In a moment, the master's finger drew blood from his cheek, and then write the name of the mantra. "Up to people. I see you are about to act with me." The devil in his body began to fear. "Hurry up and stop." "Master, stop your hand." "I'm wrong. Don't put me there." "Maybe roll your eyes at it." A hand he took in his pocket. The other amulet, the blue triangle 6. Step back quickly and put it in his mouth and say, "This is your last chance. Tell me where the owner's soul is." "Speak quickly." The devil just opened his mouth and laughed. The opposite of the previous prayer. It changes its attitude. I looked at everyone with hateful eyes and said, "I'd rather die again, not just you. Magicians like you are good. Find that guy's soul on your own." I didn't say. If so, don't blame me. After speaking, Master hand pressed his mouth. Read the language in an unknown language. The devil sounds like that. Then they glowed their white eyes, hands holding my head, screaming horribly. "Make him green and everyone in attendance." I can't help but feel the cold in my back. The more his hands and feet are trapped, the more intense it is. It's as if it's being dragged away by something. For a moment, Chow's body was soft. The screams are silent. My eyes are still on the ground. In front of everyone is still confused. The master calmly looked at Sho and said, "Don't worry, everyone.